I've seen it time and time again. Fear of the unknown can be simply crippling for people. This fear comes in all shapes and forms. It could be the fear of failure when starting a business. I've certainly had my share of busts in the business world when I was starting out as an entrepreneur, and I know exactly what they are so afraid of. It could be a fear of public speaking. As Jerry Seinfeld famously observed, many people rank the fear of speaking ahead of the fear of death, meaning that at a funeral, they'd rather be in the casket than giving the eulogy. The upside of age is experience and the wisdom that comes along with it. I've learned in time that one of the central keys to overcoming crippling fear is to minimize the amount of risk that you are placing on yourself when you're going into a situation. You need to learn to be okay with experiencing some degree of fear and accept that it's only natural to be a bit apprehensive about entering into that unknown situation. One strategy that I've used to help me cope with my own fear is to go through a visualization exercise in which I paint a picture for myself of what is the worst possible thing that could happen. How often do we really trace the roots of our fears down to that animating element of our anxiety? We dwell on the negatives. I'm going to be late. I'm going to sound foolish. I'm not going to get the job. But we really need to follow these fears into their next logical conclusions. We need to ask ourselves, what will actually happen if I'm late? If I sound foolish? If I don't get the job? In almost every circumstance, the sun is going to keep shining, the earth is going to keep spinning, and you're going to live to fight on and live another day. Almost always afforded with the greater wisdom of self-knowledge that we had before than when we went into this terrible crucible of an experience. To let go of fear of less than optimal outcomes is to help yourself be free. Once you're no longer fretting about the implications of every worst-case scenario, you're in a greater place to take action. That said, there are some typical stumbling points where I have seen so many people make mistakes and get themselves into trouble when they are wading into the world of entrepreneurship. Just as you bring out an umbrella into a storm or buy insurance for a house, you need to actively take steps in your business dealings to minimize the chance that you'll be confronted with a problem. Avoiding these mistakes will help lower the risk that you have a bad outcome that you have to fear at all. A common mistake is to quit one's job too early when starting a new venture. It's very easy to get caught up in the excitement and the romance of starting up a new business. You might decide to cut your ties with your old job and go all in so that you can concentrate your energies and not be distracted. Many people tend to see a safety gig or day job as something that will hold them back from really truly pledging to go all out in their new venture. But you need to remember the first key to investing success, which is don't lose your money. And the second is find some form of diversification. You don't need to be Warren Buffett to know that you can better protect your earnings by spreading them across a few different asset classes. The same should apply in income sources. When you think about it, depending upon one single source of revenue should be suspect and considered reckless, whether it is your own enterprise or a salary from an employer. The longer that you keep your day job while still building out your business, the greatest self-insurance policy you've ever made for yourself in the form of a cushion to keep you from completely flaming out when you strike out on your own. On the same token, I've seen many new entrepreneurs investing far too much money in their business when starting out when they could have waited longer to scale up. Sometimes they just can't wait to move into that office space or purchase that top-of-the-line equipment and quickly find themselves hemorrhaging cash. You may be far better off trying your business on a micro scale with fewer clients and succeeding on a smaller scale before you get too far in over your head. A surefire method to avoid being left out in the dry on your own is to identify a mentor who has been in the same position of launching a new business. Entrepreneurs come from proud stock. We tend to want to do everything on our own and pull ourselves up by our own bootstraps. But it's important to have the humility to recognize how much you can gain from the time spent from someone who has been through what you're going through and can help point you in the right directions. Resist that nagging temptation to do everything on your own and teach yourself everything. You can leverage their experience and knowledge to minimize the risks that you are going to fall into similar errors along the way. So think about what steps you can take to ease yourself in your own entry into entrepreneurship and lower the chances that you'll face a roadblock. Now, I would advise that you begin by taking the steps each day that ensure you're making progress. Even if it's a weekend or a day off, you need to begin to sample the taste of the startup life, which comes along with the realization that there are, in reality, no really fully days off, initially at least. By acclimating yourself to this in the early stage, you'll begin to be able to better assess whether this is really for you. Entrepreneurship is certainly not for everyone, and that is by no means a bad thing, despite what some magazine covers may have you thinking. On a more fundamental level, I would suggest that you also take the time to actually list out in writing just exactly what it is that you are most nervous or apprehensive about in launching your business. What thought catches in your thought? What causes you to wake up in the night with a pang of anxiety? Is it looking like a fool to your friends who don't think you should be taking that risk? Is it putting your family in financial jeopardy? Is it the fear that you're wasting time on a foolhardy venture? Continue to dig deeper into the root. Once you've identified the causes that are worth worrying about, the kind that could dramatically affect your health or retirement prospects or the opportunities for your loved ones, spend time writing out the solutions. Those strategies you will take to minimize the risks. Maybe it's a mentor. Maybe it's an agreement from your employer to take you back if things go south. Or maybe it's a more realistic assumptions for your timetable. Keeping these strategies in mind will allow you to head into your business with a firmer idea of how you will manage the inevitable bumps in the road along the way. When you measure and assume personal responsibility for the risks that you decide to take, you can handle them head on in a manner that has inner power. So be sure to assess the risks in any new endeavor that you take on, while at the same time mitigating them and embracing them as a challenge. And learn more on my website, TonyNewmeyer.com, and be sure to register to receive free trainings and articles and more. Also, subscribe to my YouTube channel and Facebook. Follow me on Twitter, and remember, always live rich.